Welcome to the Dear NICU Mama podcast. Our mission is to connect the past and the present NICU mom by bringing them out of isolation and into a sisterhood of women who can stand alongside each other as we heal and grow both in and out of the NICU.
Our hope is that through interviews with trauma-informed medical and maternal mental health experts and vulnerable stories from NICU mamas themselves, that you would feel connected to the Dear NICU Mama sisterhood around the world. So, whether your NICU journey was 50 years ago,
or whether you find yourself in the NICU today, we hope that this podcast reminds you that you are not alone.
Hi, friends, and welcome to the Dear NICU Mama podcast. It's your hosts, Martha and
Ashley.
We're not sick. Hey, we're not sick. It's the first time in 35 years we're not sick. Yay!
But you're not, but my toddler
Yours
is.
is, yeah. How are you doing?
We're good. We're surviving.
Yeah.
But it's okay.
It was so cute. He ran in here and he was like, I'm doing great. He's like, I feel better.
Yeah, I feel better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you're lying to yourself, bud. We are nearing spring. Summer for some people, wherever they live in the world. But for those in the Midwest, it feels nice to be thawing out here a little bit.
Speak for yourself. It's 5 degrees here today.
Oh.
And we're supposed to be -11 on Wednesday.
So, oops, sorry.
A moment of silence for those living in the Fargo-Moorhead area, please.
I just imagine, I hear the Hunger Games song like, doo, 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 like, you know.
Yes.
I'm so sorry about that. It will come here. The end of cold and flu season is going to arrive at some point as well. We're all going to get through it. Wherever you are in the world, if you're in Australia, if you're in Spain, please know that we see you during these times of transition, especially those who have survived daylight savings. Well, today is very, very exciting because we have not one, but 2 members of the Dear NICU Mama leadership team, integral members of our community, NICU parents themselves, incredible ladies from head to toe, great hair for days. And we're going to have them on to talk about a very special topic. Ash can cover that in a second. But I just want to say a big shout out to Savannah Chubb and Keely Ronovic for being here today. First time podcast guests. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, so happy to be here.
Hi. Yeah, I'm so glad to be here. Keely and Savannah are very special people of our leadership team. They are both members of our editorial team, so all of the content that you see on social and our letters are all facilitated by them, and so we're so grateful and really excited to have them on another one of our media platforms, if you will. And season 6, if you're just tuning in, is all about growing our families after NICU. And we were trying to kind of put our heads together of some roundtable topics that would be valuable in this season. And we're really excited about this one because it's a little, it's kind of a mix of 2 different things. One is navigating pregnancy announcements after NICU when maybe you're kind of in that, I'm not sure what our family building journey looks like. And 2, if you find yourself pregnant after NICU, how you facilitated, how you talked about your pregnancy on social media. Did it change? Did you post the same? That kind of thing. And so we're excited to hear from both Keely and Savannah as they have both unique family building journeys after NICU. And so thank you guys again for being here today.
Yeah, super excited to be here.
Yeah.
So, I think we should start from the beginning. That's what Julie Andrews tells us to do in The Sound of Music. And I wonder if we can share a little bit about each of your stories, your NICU journeys, who you are, and how you got here today. Savannah, do you want to start?
Yeah. So my name's Savannah. I'm actually from Alabama, but in September of 2022, we moved to South Carolina. I have a 16-month-old son named Griffin, and he was born November 20th, 2021. He was full term, and he had an HIE diagnosis at the time of birth, we believe due to prolonged labor. And he initially had a very, very low prognosis, and that's what led us to finding Dear NICU Mama and eventually led us to moving out of Alabama here to South Carolina to start over. And he's doing great and we're doing great, and we love South Carolina. So yeah, that's the very shortest version of our story.
And Griffin is so freaking cute. He's got the cutest chin, the cutest hair. We've already gone over all of this.
He's like a little punk rock boy, and I love it.
Yes.
And such a little ham at the playground. He's like flirting with all the ladies.
No, he is so obsessed with women, and it is.
You know what? As he should be.
Honestly, it's taken me aback.
Listen, he just knows who girls run the world. That's right. That's how the song goes. Yes.
That is correct.
This is,
and I will make sure he knows it.
Thank you so much for sharing, Savannah. Like we talk about this all the time. It's so hard. I feel like everyone comes up kind of like an elevator pitch version of their story, because if you can go down a whole row, like on day 12, this is what happened, and then we had these follow-up, everybody knows their story so intimately. So
I was telling Keely earlier, just the thing that landed us in the NICU in the first place was just such a crazy more than day long thing that didn't even know where to start. The very short version is he was born not breathing, and it put us in the NICU. So
it's so scary. I just really applaud you and your sweet family for all you've been through and who you are today. You do a really good job of protecting yourself and advocating for him and you. So thank you so much for being here, Savannah.
Thanks. I do my best.
Keely, how about you? Tell us a little bit about you, Keely.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Keely. I am the content curator for Dear NICU Mama, which means I get to read and respond to your comments. Love your photos that you tag us in, and being inspired by the sisterhood every single day. I have 3 little dudes. Our firstborn had intrauterine growth restriction. The second is our preemie and was our NICU stay. And I just had our third this past year, and he was my high-risk pregnancy. So a little of all the experiences.
I love your sweet family. I always like to tell people, because I just think it's a fun connection, but we go way back to those college days. Yeah. Keely and I were working the bar at Starbucks together at 5 a.m. And so it's extra special to now share this piece of our journey too. So Keely, I love you and adore you, and so grateful for all that you do to serve the moms on our social media pages. We love you.
Thank you. I love you guys.
Keely is the person we go to when we need help. What is that? Having a backbone? Is that what it is, Ash?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
She's a warrior. I will say this for the integrity of social media spaces for us, and we are very, very grateful to her. As we are to Savannah for helping curate the incredible letters that are released every week too.
I didn't even mention that.
Yes, yeah,
that's all right.
No, that's okay. We know it in our hearts, Savannah. But there's so much that goes on behind the scenes of Dear NICU Mama, and there's this group of incredible women. And we are so thrilled that to share them with you, because we get to the joy of knowing and experiencing them on a daily basis. So, yay. So, this is a big topic to start with. The concept of social media is huge. And I think we are all in the same kind of boat in that social media was born right when we were young adults or teenagers, really. And so we're kind of part of that first generation of people who've been able to experience that digital transformation and also experience what it means for us in womanhood and parenthood too. So I wonder if you guys could both share about how you navigate and use social media prior to your NICU journey. And when you found out you were pregnant, how did you decide what you would share on social media? I wonder, maybe Keely, do you want to take a start here?
Yeah, I guess it's changed dramatically from one pregnancy to the next for myself. Like with our firstborn, it was just kind of like this tell the world mindset. Like we just couldn't say it enough. And we made like a cute video announcement saying that we were pregnant, shared it absolutely everywhere. We were young, one of the first couples in our friend group to start their parenthood journey, which also meant we were incredibly naive and blissfully unaware of how everything could play out. And then like with our second born, like now we've been through a few things. I really wasn't in any kind of rush to announce on social. I also had friends at the time who were going through really difficult things on their own journeys to being parents. So announcing my pregnancy took more like thought and empathy. And it was really the first time that I felt the pull to be mindful and how it could affect others. And then my third, it was everything from the second, but like heightened and more. With it being high risk, having a NICU experience, it was like even scary to announce to like our family. I mean, they'd seen us go through everything that we did. And so like it was like, what were they going to say? Would they think that we were being irresponsible or reckless? And like a lot of my close friends were walking through really, really hard situations, like cancer diagnoses, infertility, ectopic pregnancies, chemical pregnancies, multiple miscarriages, not being able to expand their family, not by choice, but because of their medical past. So like it was just such a hard and different space to be in. So most of my announcing to friends was via text. I wanted to allow for space and feel absolutely no pressure to feel a certain way. Like if you need to cry after I send that text, like I want there to be that space. I don't want you to feel like you have to put on a brave face or a happy face. If I told you in the middle of a coffee shop or at work or wherever, like you're allowed to feel the feelings, because pregnancy announcements can really suck. They can sting and they just leave such a mark. So when I did get around to posting it on social, I was probably like in the second trimester or so. Like it just wasn't a priority anymore. And when I did announce, it was super subtle. Like basically you only got it if we had talked prior. So it really went from like being like shouting from the rooftops and like blissfully unaware to like super painfully aware of what these announcements can do and the impact they can leave.
Yeah.
And do you feel like you kind of mentioned like it changed significantly as you continued to have kids. Like, do you feel like your NICU experience was like a foundational part of you kind of like building that empathy of how you shared about your pregnancy?
I think it did. It definitely colored the whole announcing and sharing a different color. Like, I mean, we started out with like rose-colored glasses of like, nothing's gonna go wrong. Just gonna like get on the ride and go for it. And like, I mean, you see on social, like all the photos make it look so easy. Like I never thought pregnancy was hard because you just see these glowing mamas with their big bellies smiling down. They're doing all these like cute fun things with their cute little bellies. But like it so isn't. There's so many different things that go on behind the scenes that like you just don't know. And it's like it's hard. Pregnancy is hard.
Yeah. Savannah, what about you?
We were so excited to share that we were having a baby on social media. We didn't live close to most of the people that we'd grown up with and that we were close to. So we waited until I was about 13 weeks, just as soon as we felt comfortable at the time, which I would never feel comfortable doing that early now. And we shared on Mother's Day, which was really special for us because my husband's mom passed away when he was pretty little suddenly, and it's always been a hard day for him. And I don't have a close relationship with my family, so we really wanted to take a day that had some unfortunate connotations and make it something beautiful for the family we were building. So we could not be more excited to announce. Obviously, I spent a lot of time in the early months worrying about how things could go and all of the statistics. I was aware of those things as a person who struggles with anxiety. I knew those things, but it wasn't, like Keely said, something that I truly worried about. I think in my heart of hearts, I didn't think how it could hurt people or bring up unfortunate feelings for other people to share things so openly like that. And I definitely think that act differently on it now if we ever choose to have more children, which we aren't sure if that will ever come to be or not. But I definitely think that it's completely changed my experience with people announcing that their family's getting bigger. I definitely see it, and it stings a little bit, like Keely said, more than I ever could have thought that something wonderful like that could sting for people. But I definitely have that understanding of it in a way I did not before.
100%. Yeah. I think what you both articulated too is there's this idea of like the glasses are off, or maybe they're on. I don't know. You all of a sudden you see a perspective you never did before, right? And it's only possible by having kind of been through this really traumatic thing. And I think it's interesting too, because the thing about social media and like feeds in general is like there's no way to prepare for it, right? You just log in and then there's something there, right? So I think that's what's hard as well. Like it's like kitten video, pregnancy announcement.
There was a point early on when I was really, really, really struggling that I thought, like, how can I mute certain words that are words that are everywhere? Like, how can I mute happy or joy or like birth or the opposite? Like, I didn't want to see something that made me fearful, and I didn't want to see something that made me jealous either. And it feels like everything gets taken from you in that way. And I know y'all know that. But everything you see invokes something that you don't really want. So yeah, you're totally right. It's constant doom scrolling. Like, how do I undoom scroll? I want to see things that I like seeing, but there's just so many opportunities to see things that sting, I think, when you're in that position.
Yeah. Well, and you make a good point too of, like you mentioned early on, and I think how we use social media, like when we're really close to our trauma, and how we maybe engage with it today can be so different. And so honoring your current capacity of where you're at, I think and I was the same way, Savannah, when I was in the NICU, I could hardly open my social media because it just hurt. I was pregnant at the same time as close friends, and they were having wildly different pregnancy experiences while we were in the NICU and that kind of thing. And now that Silas is 4, I can engage with it a lot differently, but I think it's important to note that, you know, depending on where you are in your journey, it may require different levels of muting or, you know, looking at those words of pregnancy and birth and maybe muting those because we just don't have the capacity to take it in those early moments.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So Keely, you had kind of mentioned that, you know, maybe with your second and third, you were a little bit more mindful of what you shared. And I think sometimes in this day and age, we can think that the only way that we're celebrating these big milestones in our life is to post them online because that's kind of like the norm. But I would love to know ways that you and your family intentionally celebrated these big milestones offline. You know, what were some ways that you celebrated these milestones when maybe it didn't feel right to, or the time wasn't right to post them publicly?
I mean, especially with my third and like being that it was a high risk pregnancy, there was a lot of like mile markers along the way. So like getting to viability, like it was me and my nurse the day before Thanksgiving. No one's in the hospital. I'm getting my progesterone shot. And we're both like celebrating that we got there. This is awesome. But like, I'm not putting that on social. Like this is my moment with my nurse.
Right.
I don't need to do anything on social. I never felt the need to. Or like when we got to like 23andMe, which is when I went into labor with my second born the first time, like celebrating with my MFM, like we're getting there. Like you're doing this, we're doing this, your baby's doing amazing. And like celebrating those things with the people that are like within my inner circle and being like super pumped about it. And like, I don't know, during my third pregnancy, I kept my circle of like who knew what was going on really small. I mean, most of that was just like for my mental health, because I just like needed it. I could not just, if I was like spilling it onto Instagram or wherever, like it was already, I felt super vulnerable with the people I was interacting on a daily basis, like my nurses, my doctors. Like it was already a lot of people involved in everything, that I just didn't feel any sort of need to post it anywhere. As well as like when I see people being like, I'm 37 weeks, this baby should come at any time. Let's go, baby. It's like, that hurts. Like, I wish I could get that far. I wish, like, my prayer right now is to get that far. And like just like knowing those things now and how I verbally like communicate that kind of stuff, like it's just such a sensitive thing. And like even like when when I announce birth, I don't put those types of things, because it can send you in such a tailspin and like a comparison game in your head. Well, she made it this far, or her baby weighs that much, mine only weighed this much, or any of those kind of things. Like we're celebrating it as a family, like via a big text chain.
I think that's such a great idea to kind of celebrate what you have. And it's such a good point to make too. Like you can take pictures for yourself that don't have to be shared on social media. It's such a, and I remember we did the same thing. When we hit 28 weeks, we ordered donuts that had 28 on them and took a picture of it. And so I have that picture, right? And it's something we did to celebrate, but I didn't share it on social media. First of all, because I looked insane, but also, we didn't tell anybody we were pregnant the second time around. We just actually it was super fun. We texted a bunch of our friends and we were just like, guess what? We had a baby, surprise. But yeah, I love that idea. Actually, if it's okay, you kind of both touched on this concept, and I wonder if we can even start with you, Savannah, to answer this one. But this concept of jealousy, like it's really hard. And that really, I heard this crazy thing once that social media is really the currency of jealousy. Like this idea that it's about comparison, right? And about sharing and comparing your life against other people's. And we know there are some really beautiful parts of it as well. That's how we all met, right? But how we navigate this, maybe even as we're not as close to our NICU journeys, but we're still living the life with toddlers and seeing maybe our kids have developmental disabilities or are delayed on milestones, or even just seeing how new friends are having babies or talking about their deliveries, how we navigate those feelings of jealousy, and what are like the healthy ways that we approach them, because it's going to happen, right? No matter what.
Oh, yeah. I think those moments really hurt. It's this beautiful, breathtaking, life-altering moment that was stolen from all of us for whatever reason, with our first and maybe our only child. And that is really hard. And for a long time, I felt really guilty for how hurt it made me. There's just this feeling in my chest that I remember early on getting, that just felt like it was twisting up inside of itself every time I saw someone else have a beautiful birth experience. And much like you said, Ashley, one of my best friends, her due date was 5 days after mine. And the morning that I was in labor and struggling, and unbeknownst to me, probably developing the infection that caused everything to happen, she texted our group and said, look what I did. And she had her baby later that night. Everything happened for us. And it almost hurt me to even look at her daughter for the longest time, because it felt so raw and so tender. And then I felt so much guilt for feeling that way. And I think early on, I subjected myself to those kinds of things, to how much it hurt and to the jealousy, because I was punishing myself. And I didn't realize that until I stopped, until I found Prozac and together. And I'm just such a supporter of that, because it's absolutely changed my life. I don't think I ever would have come around to the things that I have now if it weren't for getting help in that way. Because I wanted to punish myself, because I blamed myself for what happened. And eventually I had to learn to guard my heart. I had to mute people that I loved. I had to stop lingering on the beautiful birth stories from other people that I didn't know or that I just happened across, because I wanted myself to feel how bad it felt to not have gotten it. I stopped welcoming those things. I stopped asking to suffer, I think. It was the only way not to just find myself doom scrolling and break my own heart on an Instagram post on a Thursday morning in my coffee cup, just crying, Yep. And I think it sounds so minuscule, but the kindest thing I ever did for myself throughout this was care enough to stop looking, because that was so hard for me for such a long time.
And I think it's really wise, because you're kind of pointing out what's the feeling behind the jealousy, and it's intense grief, right, of this experience that we lost for ourselves, but then also internal shame, right? And so really recognizing those is such a huge thing to accomplish for yourself. So kudos to you for doing that. It's so big. Yeah. But also you're right, like a choice. It is, what do they say, like how many times you pick up your phone a day to look at, TikTok or Instagram or whatever. It's like in the hundreds, right? So it's a habit. By breaking that habit, you actually can create space for yourself to heal. Like, and setting that boundary for yourself is really important.
I think, personally, I've had to, and maybe this is just because I'm 4 years out of it, I'm able to see it this way, where I definitely was not able to initially. But I think I kind of had to come to this place of like, it's okay if she celebrates in this way, because I think I do have friends who maybe wrestled with infertility for years, and now they share a lot, because it's like they are finally getting to share about their birth experience or their baby experience. But I think, honoring your current capacity and what feels honoring to your heart and to your experience, and also remembering that there are other ways to celebrate their experience without being daily engaged with it, especially in those tender moments. And I often found that oftentimes the in-person play date experience was a lot more gentle, surprisingly, than seeing it on social, because, their kid's having a tantrum too. And, it's like you're kind of getting the more realness of it all, where social media can be such a rose-colored glass experience. But then when you're all together and you're like, we're all in a similar, our traumas are different, our experiences are different, but we're all kind of going through our own things. We may just not talk about those publicly too, so there were other ways to celebrate each other's kids in a way that didn't also look like being shown pictures and experiences that I so deeply longed for. So I wonder, in your guys' experience, how have you either kept in touch with friendships that were maybe going through similar seasons with yours that looked maybe different online and then different in like person or in real life?
I think that's super interesting that you bring that up, and such a good point, Ash, that this is social media, but it's not the entirety of our like social life as well. And that there's like a sheen about social media that makes even all of these things that Savannah and Keely have articulated even harder. So engaging in with people in an authentic way makes such a difference. To be honest, I mean, the one I think about too all the time, Ashley, is I think about you. Is that creepy to say?
Oh,
no. That was nice. But,
I think about you too.
That sounds really...
Did you like my tone of voice when I said that?
Yeah.
It was very Joe Goldberg.
Yes. I am watching you right now, so that's why it's coming up in my head.
Oh, dear God.
But I mean, that's an example of one. Like, one thing that has come out of it is I've also made new relationships that are built off of that authenticity because we have the shared experience. So you have these relationships and maybe they change it a little bit. You know, maybe you don't engage with them on social media as much, but I text them updates or do something different. But I also have this whole other realm of new relationships with, you know, you three ladies are examples of those people I get to engage with all the time that really get it and understand it. So they celebrate in a different way. Like, we have an incredible, we use Slack as a team. And so there's a channel on that where people kind of share updates from their life, and it really runs the gamut, right? We show up for each other in ways that maybe other friendships don't. And that's okay, right? That's kind of an element of it too.
I feel like a huge element of that is having, if you're so lucky to, a group of people who aren't so traumatized by seeing what you're saying that they have to look away, you know? And because there are things that I can say to all of you that are a shrug and a laugh and a story of your own. And those are things that I might say to someone that's never been through this, who would have that look of horror come across their face. You know what I mean? And to have someone react with a simple, that is absolutely horrible, and that's something we've all got a baseline for, is so comforting in some way. There's just this level of feeling seen. And I think feeling seen throughout this process, healing from all of this, has meant more to me than even feeling loved, just feeling heard and feeling seen, because so much of it felt so isolating and so unfair, and it's so easy to get lost and wallow in that jealousy and the sadness of it all. And just to have people be able to meet me and say, you're right, that was horrible, you survived something horrific, but you survived it, and we are here, and all we can do is move forward. So just this balance of, I see you and I hear you and I meet you, and I'm not afraid of it. I'm not afraid of what you have to offer and the pain that's real for you, but we can also go somewhere else from here and leave that, you know?
Yeah. And I think that's why I kept my circle so small with that third pregnancy, is just because, like, I don't want to have to explain everything all the time. Like, it's just re-traumatizing to be like, this is why I'm doing this. This is why I have a high-risk pregnancy. Like, I don't have the time or the mental capacity, and it's not good for me in this time. Like, let's talk about my NICU experience, like, after this pregnancy. Then I'd love to share.
So much of it ebbs and flows. I think telling myself that and allowing that has been a big deal for me. Just allowing some days it being okay that it hurts when I look at joyful moments and all I can see is my own grief, and that it's okay to stop looking. And then there are other days when I catch myself seeing or noticing something and it didn't hurt, and I'm able to notice that it didn't hurt that time. And it just all ebbs and flows. And like Ashley said, I think honoring that and allowing it and just letting those things pass through was really, really hard for me at the beginning. And it's gotten not easier, but maybe more second nature as time has passed, I think. And keeping my circle small as well. Like you said, I think there's just a core group of people who get it or who are there to meet you with it. If they don't, I think that makes a big difference.
One of the blessings and curses maybe that we all experience after our traumatic experiences is that we become hyper aware of how other people might receive or perceive different things. Like, our empathy radars are like to the 10th to the nth degree, you know? We're like, oh, should I say this way or this way? And so, Keely, I'd love to know real quick, like, you know, with your third pregnancy, how did you practice social media in like a self-compassionate way? And how do you continue to do that in a way that is sensitive to other people and yet also gives you space to feel like you can honor what you're walking through in this moment?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, initially I stopped following any type of parent account. I had absolutely no shame with using the mute options, and no tolerance for like shame or fear mongering type accounts. As a NICU parent, NICU grad parent, parents in general, we don't have time for any of that. Like, we don't need it. It's not necessary. Just know. I was in the hospital a lot for all the appointments, and I had an idea in my head that I was going to like share all these photos from me, like in these different spots, and write this long post about my experience with a high risk pregnancy. But that never came to fruition because it just, it felt too open, as well as like when I post something, like I go through a series of like questions of like, is this necessary? Is this helpful? Is this like, I mean, I'm an empath. So like, how is this going to impact others? What are they going to think? Is it helping them? You know? And it just came down to like, maybe it isn't. Maybe this is something that I keep in my notes. And like, it was more of a therapeutic thing for me to exercise and get my feelings out there, get my thoughts out there, something that I can look back and be like, read through and be like, wow, I am so brave and courageous for walking through all of this. Like, this is awesome. So like, I look at that note now and it's for me and it's amazing and I love it. And I'm glad I didn't put it on social. Yeah. And like, I have a lot of different drafts like that, but it doesn't mean that like I wasn't super excited for this pregnancy. It doesn't mean that I was shameful for it. It doesn't mean that I regret being pregnant. It doesn't mean that like I'm not super excited about this baby. Like, I am all those things, but I just never felt the absolute need to put it all over social. And that's just like a me thing. Yeah. It's, yeah, I don't know.
No, that's beautiful.
You know, I would love to hear from you both on. Ash and I have dealt with this. But one of the cool parts of social media, and also like the terrifying parts of social media in pretty much every photo app now, is that you get reminders of on this day 3 years ago, right? Or a year ago. And I know, Savannah, back in, in the fall, you went through all of that coming back from just like, a year. How do you feel when those things pop up? And do you have tactics on how to deal with them?
Yes. First of all, thank you for remembering that, because that was a really hard time for me, and I appreciate that you remembered.
You did. You handled it really beautifully, by the way. The anniversaries are hard.
Oh, yeah. The first time around, yeah, I'm glad that there won't be any more first time arounds for that in that way. But yeah, those things, those reminders were really hard. He was born right before Thanksgiving, which has always been not my favorite holiday. Just never had a big family, so it was never one that felt like a big thing or it felt fun or exciting. And so I remember thinking, well, we'll just replace like a boring Thanksgiving week, my least favorite holiday, with Griffin's birthday. It'll be sometime around then. But then instead it sort of became this extra reminder of we were alone in a hospital waiting to find out if our son had brain damage on Thanksgiving. And I remember how horrible the macaroni was and how upset I was that I had cafeteria macaroni on Thanksgiving and that it wasn't even good. Like, how dare you ruin macaroni for me?
Especially in the South, right? Like, that is very, the Southerners love their macaroni and cheese, so.
Yes, I was so sad. I was looking forward to it so much. And so all of those things were obviously very tender, coming up on 1 year. And I mean, I feel like I'm a broken record, but I think I just kept telling myself that it was safe to let it come and let it go. There will always be days when it comes, and I can't look at those things, and there will, rest assured, always be another day that comes when I can, and it makes me feel pride and triumph that I'm here and we made it. Because even now I'll get things like that, and some days I'm like, oh, Joe, like, look at this beautiful picture, like, look how sweet he looks, look at this? Can you believe he was that small? Can you believe he was that sick? Like, that's the same kid in front of us now. And then other days I look at it and it sits in my chest for the rest of the day and I don't feel good. And the difference between me now and me closer to the beginning of this journey is that when I feel that it's going to sit in my chest, I don't hurt myself with it. I've become acutely aware of my own body's and my own mind's, I guess, tells when I'm not going to be able to take something in and not let it become all my brain is for X amount of days. And I think it's allowed me to get to know myself, or maybe I'm a new person and I'm learning about this person, but it's all allowed me to listen to myself in a way that I did not even know was possible or necessary before everything happened. But yeah, I just got to look out from a girl. I got to look out for me.
Yeah.
And I don't think I used to do that. And so in the worst, most horrible, twisted way, I'm thankful that it gave me the not only the ability, but the desire in the long term to be nice to myself when I'm not.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, Savannah. That's gorgeous. And there were a lot of like beautiful, I got goosebumps when you were talking about how you approach those pictures. I think you should be really proud with your self-growth over such a short period of time. I think you should give yourself a big pat on the back and drink a big Diet Coke, a slushie, or a Pinot Noir, whatever feels good for you.
Well, I hope that it's the same thing, that a year from now I look back and I'm like, God, look at her go. And then every year I hope I keep looking back and being like, you were being hard on yourself. You are doing so good.
Yes.
But I love you for saying that.
Keely, how about you? You know what? Why it's crazy about Keely is because Keely is a professional social media manager. So this is an interesting topic to have you on because you know all the inner workings of all of the stuffs. So yeah, what is your perspective on those like memories that pop up? Because then now you've got kind of multiple sets of those too.
Yeah.
With multiple kids.
Yeah. I mean, being quite honest, I'm pretty private with my kids on on Instagram, Facebook, wherever. Like, I don't really share those kinds of things. So for me, I just don't get those like reminders. Like if I do, it's like, look what I did 10 years ago with this person, and oh man, that middle part, maybe you shouldn't have, Keely. But for me, like
the year was 2007. Yeah,
exactly. Exactly. And for me, like I'm old school and I like to print out my photos. And so like my kids will ask, oh, let's go through our like photo albums. And like I have those NICU day photos in there, like have all those different things. And like at first it really stung to see those. Like it was like, oh my goodness, we went through this. But like if you like in another book, I'll have our firstborn, and that was more of like, you know, quote unquote normal-ish deliveries, and you see how starkly different those two are, and that kind of hurts. But what's interesting about that is also now like my NICU baby, who's now 3, like he'll ask to see those photos, and so like we'll sit down and like we'll walk through it, and my 5-year-old will be like, oh, why is he in that plastic thing? Like why are there wires? Why wasn't I able to go in there? Like there's just more of like an educational topic surrounding the whole thing, and like all the photos, and like now I'm at a place where I'm like, oh yeah, let's like talk about this. Like it's not as scary as these, I mean, these photos look really scary and like all this stuff, but let's talk about it. Like these monitors were helping the doctors know that you were doing good and you were progressing, and that little tube that's coming out of your nose, like that was helping you get bigger and stronger and come home. Like, but that wasn't me like 2 years ago saying all this and being okay to talk through it with my children or even myself. Like my heart wasn't there. But now I'm in that place where like, yeah, let's have a conversation about this. So yeah, it's a little different. I don't see it online because I didn't really do a whole lot of stuff online. during that whole journey, or any of our pregnancy journeys, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you get like the Google photos will be like, this day in history. I mean, you get that thing, and it's just like, okay,
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
take a seat, Google. Like, I don't need this.
Yeah. Not today.
Not today.
I love it when Google's like, 2 years ago, you took pictures of your cystic acne to send to your doctor. And I'm like, thank you, Google. Definitely needed that. If anybody out there knows how we can hack the Google algorithm, let us know so we don't have to say that.
Well, and I don't know about you guys, but one thing that kind of surprised me about how I use social media now is I feel really defensive, or like protective, maybe is a better word, of like other people's comment sections. Like if a mom shares her experience or whatever, I'm just like, they better be kind. Like you have no idea how much courage it took to post this and that kind of thing. So I don't know if you guys feel this way, but I sometimes feel so protective of people, of just like, because now I think we know how much courage it takes to share some of those vulnerable things, and I'm like, they better respond kindly. If they say something, I'm going to be messaging this mom and telling her how amazing she is, and that kind of thing. You just feel so protective of strangers you've never met, because you're like, wow, that took a lot of courage to share, and I'm really proud of you for doing that.
So we've been through our NICU journeys. We've kind of all gone through this transition of how we interact with social media and our personal journeys, and how we've processed those. I know you have both kind of, Keely, you've gone through the process of growing your family. I'm not quite sure where you're at in your family building journey. And Savannah, you've kind of articulated, you're not quite sure where you stand yet after Griffin. I'm wondering how you all feel, because we're all at this kind of stage where we see our contemporaries, the people our age, very easily being able to decide to grow a family, or be able to. Maybe it's not a choice for us. How do you navigate those emotions that come up? What are those emotions? Keely, do you want to start?
Yeah. I mean, we're in the spot of like, should we or shouldn't we have another kid? And I guess like I've gone through a high risk pregnancy. I have the 11 scars on my upper butt cheeks from the progesterone shots. Like, it's a journey doing it. And now it's like, can I go through that journey again? Should I go through that journey again? Because it's a lot. It is a lot, and it took a lot out of myself, but it also, like, my husband was my rock of this entire thing, and like it affected him and what our relationship looked through for that. I think the emotions right now, I think we kind of know what we want to do. We just haven't taken any steps to make it permanent. But we kind of have very open conversations about where we both are in our hearts and our minds, of like, are we done? Are we not done? But yeah, I think we do have like a date set, or later in this year, to be like, okay, we're going to move forward, either seeking to start those conversations with MFM, or we're going to schedule a vasectomy. Like, that's just kind of where we are. It's either we're done this year, or we're going to move forward. But I mean,
and thanks for sharing that. I know, Keely, that it's a hard decision to make, and for all the reasons you've already articulated. Yeah.
It's a weird conversation to have, like, vasectomy talk when you're only like, you're 30. Like, it doesn't seem,
you're young.
Like, it's just odd. I never really pictured it. I mean, like, our pre-kid cells were like yeah, we're going to have all these kids. We're going to have a big family. But then it's like, actually pump the brakes. This is not what we thought we signed up for. So.
And to bring it back to the thing, it's not, vasectomies are not something people talk about openly on, it's not like people are the same way people are like, we're having a baby. They're not like, we're having a vasectomy. Although I think I'm going to do that now. I'll just have to talk to Zach about it. So that's also isolating, right? Because it's not as pervasive on our social media channels, this concept of like people making that decision.
Yeah.
Or if it is, it's very much like they've had 5 kids and then they're like, we're done, and it's like kind of a joke where for so many of us, it's more of like a tender, type of conversation.
Yeah, where it's more like scary to be pregnant again. It's not like a joy. Like when we started this journey, like I did not care if I got pregnant or not.
Yeah.
For a long time after the NICU, it was just like scary to be intimate in that kind of way.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
I literally can't even at this point imagine the idea of being pregnant and going into a hospital and being about to give birth.
Yeah.
So I can't even process what I would be processing if I were in that position. I don't even know how people think about it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, it totally makes sense. And I think even the, like you alluded to, Savannah, not being able to like mentally even go there is itself a point of like grief and difference from like our peers who haven't experienced a traumatic birth or pregnancy, because it's just, it's not as discussed. It's not widely discussed. And it makes it different than that experience. And so I wonder if you both are seeing, things on your feed about people announcing that they're growing their families, or they're announcing more pregnancies. Maybe they had kids the same ages of yours. I know I feel this. What does that feel like for you, and how are you navigating it amongst what you're trying to process from your experience?
I think it's kind of mixed for me, at least. I mean, I've had 2 quote like normalish deliveries, and I've had those moments, but I've also had the quiet room. Your baby has been moved to the NICU and you have to wait to go see them, hold them. So when I see like those photos on social, it's a moment of grief. It's a moment of jealousy. It's a moment of like, like keeping up with the Joneses. Like
keeping up with the Jonas Brothers.
Yes. Exactly. Like I feel like I'm being left behind, but like also it's like, I mean, like the friends that are getting pregnant now, like I know the backstory to a lot of those journeys, and so it's like joy and excitement. So it's like my kids have been watching this Daniel Tiger episode, and they talk about feeling 2 things at the same time, and they use like the word ambivalence. Like it's a lot of that. Like I feel ambivalent to like these posts of, I feel all these really hard, deep, intense feelings because of what I've gone through, but like I also know that they have gone through a lot of things. So like it's and like I've come to a place like it's okay to feel that. I'm not a bad person. I'm not a bad friend. Maybe I need to like mute that account if it becomes like overwhelming, and that still doesn't make me a bad person. Like I can still celebrate. I can still go to their baby shower. I could still get them a gift if I don't feel like I can go to that baby shower. Like I know the steps that I need to take to be able to make sure that I'm okay, that I feel safe, so I can love like everyone around me.
Yeah, I couldn't have said that any better, for sure.
I am so appreciative of both of your perspective and wisdom on this topic, because it's also an ever evolving thing, right? As our kind of seasons of parenting change, right? We're going to change with it too. And we never know what's going to happen or how we're going to feel in the moment. But one thing I've heard you both echo over and over again is that we just need to meet ourselves where we're at. And really the antidote to shame is just incredible compassion. And if we can get to that point where we're feeling, surrounding ourselves with love and compassion about how hard it is just to navigate this and to go through this major life transition, that really can be a wonderful spot of healing for us and can help you get through quite a lot. So our final question for y'all is, what encouragement and advice would you give to NICU parents who are trying to navigate social media after a delivery? All the things that come with it that we've talked about: pregnancy announcements, birth announcements, mean comments from your great aunt Nancy, right? What advice and encouragement do you have to support those friends? Keely, you want to go first?
Yeah. I mean, give yourself all the permission to step away from it. Social is not there. Like, it should be serving you, and it should be the other way around. Like, honor where you are at in your healing journey. If social feels safe and you enjoy it, I mean, by all means, go for it. But if it's too much and triggers you, use that mute button. Unfollow the accounts. Like, your mental health is way, 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 way more important than someone's new dog or whatever they're doing. Like, just step away. It will always be there. I mean, if you feel anxious that you're missing out, like, maybe have a friend who's staying on social, like, give you the updates that you need. And then you can see that text and process it the way you need to process it. But yeah, just give yourself so much grace. Social is crazy and wild, and it isn't meant, like, its end goal is to make money. It's not to feed your soul, to feed your heart. Like, that's not their intent. It's not social's intent for that.
That's a really good observation, actually, and also makes me think very differently now. I'm like, oh my gosh, but it's true. Like, it's a platform at the end of the day, and we are people. We're not commodities, and so we're like hugely complex, and we should approach our human relationships and experiences in a holistic way, right? And we are more than just one feed.
Yeah.
How about you, Savannah?
I absolutely agree. I think that, sorry, you're gonna hear him screaming.
No, we love it. Give it all, Griffin.
Totally okay.
I think that the number one thing that I wish someone could have said to me, someone who understood, is that you are safe to find comfort in the ebb and flow, whatever that means for you right now, whether that is celebrating a beautiful time for someone you love because they did get it and that is beautiful even if you didn't, or closing yourself off from that in whatever capacity it is that you need to do that. Every day is something new. Every day is still a part of the journey. We are not done with this journey until we are not here, until it doesn't hurt, until it doesn't feel good at all. So I think it's just that we all conquered something unimaginable, and that we're safe to find comfort in whatever way we need to find comfort at whatever time that might be, because it was hard and we have to move forward somehow. And every day the forward steps might look different, and that is totally okay, because rest assured, there will be a day that it doesn't hurt and there will be a day that it does. But there will always be another day.
One thing you point out that is so wonderful as well is that this is not linear at all. And so feeling one way a certain day and then differently the next is not a negative sign on yourself at all. It's just a reflection on how you're feeling that day. And both things are valid. So thank you so much for those wise words.
Well, since we're interviewing two people of our editorial team, I think it's fitting to read a post that we've all collaborated on together, because I feel like it ties in really beautifully with what we're talking about here. Sometimes on our healing journeys, especially if we are not where we would like to be, it can feel like we are falling behind our fellow NICU sisters. We can look around us and see all of the ways our sisters are thriving, and it can make us second guess our progress or our healing. But sweet NICU mama, the beauty of this sisterhood is that even though we all heal at different paces, we walk and we heal with each other. Each of us will embark on our own valleys and mountaintops, and each of us will endure our own unique setbacks and triumphs. Just like no two NICU journeys are the same, no two healing journeys are the same. There's beauty to be found when we link arms with our fellow NICU sisters and commit to being a sisterhood that holds space for each other. Healing is not a race. Healing is a lifelong journey. And sister, you are exactly where you are meant to be. This sisterhood heals with you. And the post reads, gentle soul reminders for NICU sisters as they heal. Her progress is not my setback. Her healing is not my competition. Her abundance is not my lack. Her breakthrough is not my roadblock. Her timeline is not my deadline. And her joy is not my sorrow.
So good.
Keely and Savannah, thank you so much for being here with us today and being such special, special team members. And to all of our NICU mamas listening, no matter where you are on your healing journey and using social media, maybe you're in the NICU, maybe you're out of the NICU, maybe you're expecting after NICU and you're just trying to figure out how to engage with the beast of social media. We hope that this episode gives you permission to honor your heart first. So you are loved, and my child is talking. Okay, Daddy's not here. Daddy went to work. Can you go ask Opal?
No, she's a dog.
Oh, too bad.
She's a dog.
Okay. I'll go.
That didn't get that one by him, Mom.
But know that you are loved and your heart is worthy of care and those boundaries to honor it. So we love you guys. We will be back next week, but thank you so much for being with us here today. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of the Dear NICU Mama podcast.
If you loved this episode, we'd be so grateful for a review on any of the podcast platforms.
And we'd love to continue connecting with you via our social media pages or a private Facebook group. And ultimately, NICU Mama, welcome to the sisterhood.